Hello! Hi there, YouTube. Welcome to another Storytime Quickie of the Chinese Myths and Folktales. Today, we will be reading Magical Arts. Alright? So, buckle up, grab your blankies, grab your snackies, because it's time for a quickie. A Storytime Quickie. Magical Arts. A certain Mr. Yu was a spirited young fellow, fond of boxing and trials of strength. He was able to take two kettles and swing them round about with the speed of the wind. Now, during the reign of Chung Cheng, when up for the final examination at the capital, his servant became seriously ill. Much troubled at this, he applied a necromancer in the marketplace who was skillful at determining the various leases of life allotted to men. Before he had uttered a word, the necromancer asked him, saying, "Is it not about your servant, sir, that you would consult me?" Mr. Yu was startled at this and replied that it was. The sick man continued, "The necromancer will come to no harm. You, sir, are the one in danger." Mr. Yu then begged him to cast his naivety, which he proceeded to do, finally saying to Mr. Yu, "You have but 3 days to live." Dreadfully frightened, he remained some time in a state of stupefaction, when the necromancer quietly observed that he possessed the power of averting this calamity by magic, and would exert it for the sum of 10 ounces of silver. But Mr. Yu reflected that life and death are already fixed, and he didn't see how magic could save him. So he refused and was just going away. Whereupon the necromancer said, "You grudge this trifling outlay? I hope you will not repent it." Mr. Yu's friend also urged him to pay the money, advising him rather to empty his purse than not secure the necromancer's compassion. Mr. Yu, however, would not hear of it, and the 3 days slipped quickly away. Then he sat down calmly in to see what was going to happen. Nothing did happen all day, and at night he shut his door and trimmed the lamp. Then, with the sword at his side, he awaited the approach of death. By and by, the clepsydra showed the 2 hours had gone without being bringing him any nearer to dissolution, and he was thinking about lying down when he heard a scratching at the window, and then saw a tiny little man creep through, carrying a spear on his shoulder, who, on reaching the ground, shot up to the ordinary height. Mr. Yu seized his sword and at once struck at it, but only succeeded in cutting the air. His visitor instantly shrunk down small again and made an attempt to escape through the crevice of the window, but Yu redoubled his blow and at last brought him to the ground. Lighting the lamp, he found only a paper cut right through the middle. This made him afraid to sleep, and he sat up watching until in a little time he saw a horrid hobgoblin creep through the same place. No sooner did it touch the ground than he assailed it lustily with his sword, at length cutting it in half. Seeing, however, that both halves kept on wriggling about and fearing that it might get up again, he went on hacking at it. Every blow told, giving forth a hard sound, and when he came to examine his work, he found a clay image all knocked to pieces. Upon this, he moved his seat near to the window and kept his eyes fixed on the crack. After some time, he heard a noise like a bull bellowing outside of the window, and something pushed against the window frame with such force as to make the whole house tremble and seem about to fall. Mr. Yu fearing he should be buried under the ruins, thought he could not do better than fight outside. He he accordingly burst open the door and with a crash rushing out, there he found a huge devil, as tall as the house, and he saw by the dim light of the moon that its face was as black as coal. Its eyes shot forth yellow fire. It was nothing either upon its shoulders or feet, but held a bow in its hand with some arrows in its wrists. Mr. Yu was terrified, and the devil discharged an arrow at him, which he struck to the ground with his sword. On Mr. Yu preparing to strike, the devil let off another arrow, which the former avoided by jumping aside, the arrow quivering in the wall beyond with a smart crack. The devil here got very angry, and drawing his sword, flourished it like a whirlwind, aiming a tremendous blow at Mr. Yu. Mr. Yu ducked, and the whole force of the blow fell upon the stone wall of the house, cutting it right in two. Mr. Yu then ran out from between the devil's legs and began hacking at its back. Whack! Whack! The devil now became furious and roared like thunder, turning round to get another blow at his assailant. But Mr. Yu again ran between his legs, the devil's sword merely cutting off a piece of his coat. Once more, he hacked away. Whack! Whack! And at length, the devil came tumbling down flat. Mr. Yu cut at him right and left, each blow resounding like the watchman's wooden gong. And then, bringing a light, he found it was a wooden image about as tall as a man. The bow and arrows were still there, the later attached to its waist. Its carved and painted features were most hideous to behold, and wherever Mr. Yu had struck it with his sword, there was blood. Mr. Yu sat with the light in his hand still till morning, when he awaked to the fact that all these devils had been sent by the necromancer in order to kill him, and so evidence his own magical power. The next day, after having told the story far and wide, he went with some others to the place where the necromancer had his stall, and the later, seeing them coming, vanished in the twinkling of an eye. Someone observed that the blood of a dog would reveal a person who had made himself invisible, and Mr. Yu immediately procured some and went back with it. The necromancer disappeared as before, but on the spot where he had been standing, they quickly threw down the dog's blood, whereupon they saw his head and face all smeared over with the blood, his eyes glaring like a devil. At once seizing him, they handed him over to the authorities by whom he was put to death. And that concludes the tale of magical arts. Well, if this is a folk tale or a myth is to be debated, I guess. Um, it doesn't necessarily seem to have a morality to it, right? You have this protagonist who has things that are happening to him. You know, his assistant dies. He goes to a necromancer to try and get him revived. The necromancer curses him in some way, and he's using magical arts to basically try to kill him. And then by the end of it, he tracks down the necromancer and has this weird he just happens to know this weird tactic of using dog's blood to reveal the invisibility, which is kind of odd, right? It's a little weird, but it's kind of cool. I like this one better than last night's story for sure. Right? Last night's story was definitely kind of like more of a snoozer for sure. This one felt more kind of like in line with like the Grimm's fairy tales a little bit. Like even though it doesn't have the morality, doesn't have the same kind of like fantasy vibes that the Grimm's has, I feel like this one it still has that kind of mentality of like kind of like magical nature. Like, it could definitely have been used for, like, a Disney, short or something. But that concludes, Magical Arts. For next reading, we're gonna be having Joining the Immortals. So I hope you guys tune in next time for that one. And if you're watching from YouTube, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Uh, it lets me know what stories you guys are really enjoying and all that. I hope to see you guys on the all next one. There's gonna be some boxes that are gonna be popping up down here too. Go check out the Grimm's Fairy Tales and the Tales of Horror. Really good stuff in there. So go check that out. Bye. I'll see you all next one.